The last word was never spoken. Hey, night listener. Tonight, we enter the shadows. Streetlights flicker like dying thoughts on a loop. Rain pecks at your window in patterns too rhythmic to be random. Somewhere outside, footsteps echo but never approach. The night feels like it's watching, and maybe it is. If this story found you, maybe it's because you've been followed too. So, before we vanish into this mystery, like the video and subscribe only if you can handle the truth buried beneath the lies. Drop your location in the comments and tell me what pulls you closer, the truth, the thrill, or the justice. Now, lock your doors, take a deep breath, and follow me into the dark. You don't remember her voice. That's the first lie you tell yourself, because of course you do. Not what she said, but how it didn't sound. The way her silence dragged through the courtroom like a scream no one could prove. She sat there with her hands folded in her lap. A gold ring, no wedding. Hair neat but tired. Eyes that never blinked when they looked at you. You didn't cross-examine her. Didn't need to. She never spoke a word. The prosecution called it obstinance. The defense called it trauma. You called it strategy. The entire case hung on what she wouldn't say, not what she did, and she let it. Let you twist the silence into motive, guilt, a plea for punishment. Because what kind of innocent person doesn't fight? The verdict came fast. Manslaughter, 20 years. Not murder, but enough. Enough to feel like justice had been carried out in full, even if the body was never bound. But tonight, years later, the email hits your inbox. No subject, no sender, one attachment. A still frame of the courtroom security cam. Low raised, dusty, but centered perfectly. Her, staring right into the camera, and in her lap, a note, barely visible, folded twice. You zoom in, your name is written on it. That's impossible. You were standing 5 feet away from her when that picture was taken. You check the metadata. The timestamp is tomorrow. You sit back in your chair, feel something coil behind your spine. What if you've been the suspect all along? You blink. The screen glitches. For a second, just one, you see her mouth moving, not speaking, whispering, and your name is still on her lips. She never spoke it then, but somehow she will. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control, and hers starts now. A glove, left in the wrong room. You tell yourself it is just a prank. Photoshop, metadata spoofing, a bored ex-cop with a grudge and too much free time. You've made enemies, but this isn't their style. This feels personal. You return to the box, the one you swore you'd never open again. The case file, her case file. You keep it at the back of the cabinet, buried behind tax records, pension forms, and a half-burned photo album with faces you no longer name out loud. You flip it open. The evidence list should be short. Item, a jewelry 1. Item B, cell phone cracked. Item C, one left glove, gray knit. No DNA match, but you never saw a glove. Not once in court. Not in the evidence room. Not even mentioned in the initial discovery packet. You pull out the chain of custody. Signed by you. Initialed by her. You blink hard. That's wrong. She never signed anything. She refused. Always refused. You check the date. February 4th, the day after she was sentenced. You remember where you were that day. You were in room 14B, clearing your desk. You hadn't touched her case since the verdict. You even turned down the promotion. Too much noise behind the scenes. But the glove, It's there now, on your desk, folded neatly, like someone knew you'd come looking. You don't remember bringing it home. You don't remember taking it from the archive. But there it sits, grey knit, thumb unraveling slightly, still damp. You reach for it. It's cold, not freezing, just fresh, as if it hadn't sat in a drawer for years. Inside, you find a small slip of paper, tucked like a message in a bottle. One sentence, you left the right one behind. You turn it over. In tiny red script, truth, ekark, asymmetry. Your hand trembles. Your heart doesn't. Because something about this fits. Wrong, but familiar. You flash to that final courtroom image, the one with her staring into the camera. Her hands were folded, both gloves missing, and her fingers, they weren't empty. One hand held something. You're sure of it now. A key, a note, a second glove. The air in your apartment tightens. Time condenses. The walls lean just slightly inward. And somewhere, faintly, your landline rings. You don't have a landline. You haven't in years. You walk toward the sound. One foot in the dark, one hand holding a glove that should never have followed you. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who keep souvenirs. It was never about the evidence, it was about the omissions. And this glove, it was always missing for a reason. The missing photograph reappears. The ringing stops as you cross the threshold into your study. No click, no fade, just a full and instant absence like sound swallowed by shadow. The glove in your hand feels heavier now. You drop it on the table, but it doesn't land flat. Something inside resists. You squeeze it. Paper. Again. Thicker this time. You turn the glove inside out. A photograph. Polaroid. Yellowed at the edges. Curled like memory. You almost don't want to look at it. But you do. And when you do, you stop breathing. It's her. Not from court. Not from surveillance. This is before the crime, before the silence. She's standing in front of an old motel door, peeling blue paint behind her. Room number 214 barely legible. She's holding something in her hands, a newspaper. Today's paper. You glance down at the date, June 17th. Today, she's staring into the lens, same as before. Eyes not pleading, not empty, accusing. And behind her, half hidden by a curtain through the window, you, not just someone who looks like you. You, same jacket, same posture, your hand raised as if mid-gesture, as if frozen in time. The photo makes no sense. You've never been to that motel, never stood in that doorway. And yet, this photo has age. The chemicals faded, the back worn smooth, like it's been tucked and retucked into pockets, passed between hands that don't speak. You flip it over. This time, no message, just a smudge of ash along the top corner, the same shape as the burn mark on your desk. You hold the photo up to it. It matches perfectly, as if the photo was here before, long ago, burned once, returned now. You step back, because nothing about this moment feels real. Not the glove, not the photograph, not the date, especially not the memory that's surfacing an echo you've tried to bury. Room 214. You were there, years ago, not with her, but after, searching for something you never admitted was missing. A name scratched into the back of a drawer, a scent of smoke and bleach, a single discarded earring on the sink. You wrote the report, filed it as inconclusive, and never spoke of it again. Until now, until she brought it back. You checked the timestamp again. This isn't just today. It's an hour from now. You're going to be in that room. You're going to stand behind her. and you have no idea why. What if you've been the suspect all along? The voice isn't in your head anymore. It's on the answering machine, sitting dead and unplugged on the corner shelf. The red light blinks once, then dies. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who document the silence. It was never about her disappearance. It was about what she saw before you erased it. Her eyes knew too much. You sit on the edge of the couch with the photograph between your fingers, unable to stop looking at her eyes. They don't blink. They don't look surprised. They look like they already know what you're about to do. You should be questioning the how, the logic, the science. A photo from the future, a time loop, a forgery, a hack. But deep down, you recognize the feeling rising inside you. It's not confusion, it's recognition. Because you've seen that look before. Not just in court, not just in surveillance stills, but in person. The first time you visited her. No lawyers, no recordings, just you. A silent woman, and a glass wall that didn't protect you from a damn thing. You'd asked her why she did it. She smiled, not warmly, not cruelly, just knowingly. And she didn't answer, not with words, just her eyes, those same eyes looking at you now from the Polaroid. Eyes that said, you already know. You open your laptop, pull up the old court archive, the folder labeled Case 0712A, Vespa. You hesitate. You haven't opened it since the trial. Some files are missing. You don't remember deleting them. But the gaps are there. Video logs gone. Testimony transcripts redacted beyond comprehension. But the footage from day 3 of the trial still loads. She's seated, still silent. And then, minute 12:12 p. She lifts her gaze from her lap and looks straight at the courtroom camera. Not the people, the lens. You. It's not a glance. It's a warning. You pause the video, zoom in, enhance the still. The frame degrades into digital static, but her face sharpens for a second, and there, reflected in the lens of her eye, is the photo, the one you're holding. That shouldn't be possible, not in the way the world usually works. But this case never cared about usual. Behind her reflection, another figure emerges, your outline, not in the courtroom, in a hallway, watching her on a monitor, exactly like now. A loop, an echo, a mirror inside a mirror, collapsing inward. And still, her eyes hold steady. What if she orchestrated this not with violence, not with lies, with silence, with the kind of stillness that lets truth breathe until it's loud enough to crack glass? You sit back. Suddenly, the apartment feels smaller. Or maybe it's you, shrinking back into the timeline you tried to outrun. The photo slides to the floor. You see what's behind it now. Another slip of paper tucked beneath your laptop, like it waited for you to move. One word, listen. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about what she said. It was about what you refused to hear. And now, her silence is screaming. You were in the room, but when you pick up the paper, listen. It says again, all caps, no punctuation, heavy black ink. You whisper it aloud, not a command, a warning. You press play on the courtroom footage again. This time, you don't watch her. You watch the shadows behind the jury box. At 13:06, something shifts. It's quick, less than a frame. You rewind, slow it to quarter speed, and there it is, a figure, barely visible, not seated, standing, back row, far left, same jacket, same watch. You freeze the frame, tilt your head. No way. You were across the aisle. not behind her, not there. And yet, the timestamp is irrefutable. You check your own case notes. Your position was logged, cross-referenced by multiple security feeds. So, who's the other you? And then the question you never wanted to ask drops like a weight. What if you weren't just observing this case? What if you were part of it? You look back at the word on the paper again. Listen. That's when you hear it. Soft, low, mechanical. The faint whir of a tape deck hidden under the desk. You yank open the bottom drawer. A recorder, cassette, playing, not recording, and on it, her voice, a whisper, repeating, as if from a loop you never knew existed. He was there. He saw it happen. He just doesn't remember which version of him was watching. You drop the recorder like it's hot metal. The words keep playing. She never spoke during the trial, but she recorded this for you to find later, to break you out of the cycle. Your pulse spikes. You run to your safe, combination your badge number, inside photos, letters, memorabilia, and one thing that shouldn't be there, a motel key, room 214. The metal is scratched, but the number is clear. You pull it out, hold it next to the photograph from earlier. Perfect match. The doorknob, the shape of the key, the lock fits. You don't remember going there, but your subconscious might. You close the safe slowly, and in the moment of silence, you swear you hear it again. Her voice, beneath your thoughts. You've been in every room but the right one. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially to themselves. It was never about proving the timeline. It was about confronting your place in it. The whisper beneath the interrogation tape. The key is warm in your hand, not from body heat, from memory. The kind of warmth that shouldn't exist unless the past never really left. You place it on the table beside the cassette recorder. The whisper still plays her voice, looping the same cryptic line. He saw it happen. He just doesn't remember which version of him was watching. You open your evidence archive again. Not the official one, the private one, hidden behind a firewall and two ghost VPNs. Not exactly legal, definitely unethical. It's where you kept the interrogation tapes. All of them. Some shouldn't exist. This one in particular. You queue up interview 14B. The session never made it to the official log. You remember it vaguely, a third session with her. Late, after hours, off protocol. You hit play. The screen stays black, but the audio hisses to life. At first, it's just silence. Then her voice, steady, measured, almost musical. There are patterns in the silence if you listen close enough. You lean in. The pitch modulates oddly, like something layered underneath. You isolate the audio, drop it into your spectral analysis software, and there it is, a secondary waveform, faint, hidden, buried beneath ambient room tone. You run a filter. The second voice emerges. It's yours, not the voice asking questions, the one answering. And you weren't in that room. At least, not that you remember. But the response is unmistakable. We erased the original tape. The jury never needed the real timeline. She didn't confess. She just waited. You pause the file. You say out loud, "What did I do?" And the silence answers you back. Not the recording, the room. Behind you, a slow creak of floorboard. You turn sharply. Nothing's there. Just the glove. Now, on the opposite end of the table. You didn't move it. You backtrack the footage from your laptop cam, your fail-safe, always recording in case of a break-in. It shows your empty apartment. No one entered. But at 1:06 a.m., the glove lifts, moves, by itself, and something sits beneath it now. A second tape, unlabeled. You slip it into the recorder. Click. No hiss this time, just breath. Then he's almost awake. If he listens too long, they'll find out. They always come when the loops break. You freeze because you know what they means, not people. Observers, the ones who write silence into history like punctuation. You reach for the key again, but it's gone. You spin. It's on the floor now, across the room, next to the window, open, and on the sill, another photograph. This one of you, asleep in this room, taken moments ago. The caption scrawled on the bottom corner. This time, don't pretend. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially when the truth is encoded. It was never about her silence. It was about what they let you hear. The key with no lock. The photograph shakes in your hand, not because it's cold, because you are. You look at the timestamp. 4 minutes ago, someone was here, inside out, watching you sleep, like a shadow, rehearsing your fall. You look around, check the door locked, the windows latched, no alarms tripped, no signs of entry, and yet the photo sits in your hand, fresh ink, still curling at the corners like it just came from the Polaroid. You drop it and pace. Your thoughts claw each other for room. The key, the glove, the tapes, and now this. You return to the glove, kneel beside it, turn it over again, checking every seam, every corner, searching for something you missed, and you find it. Not inside the glove, inside the table. A shallow slit barely wider than a pencil, a hidden compartment. The kind only someone who built the desk or planted it in your apartment would know existed. You fish around and pull out a note, folded twice, sharp creases, yellowed edges, written in your own handwriting. But you never wrote this. If you found this, you've crossed the threshold. You can't go back now. Take the key to the motel, but not room 214. There is no room 214. Not anymore. Find the lock that fits, or the memory will eat you. You flip the note over. A sketch, rough, rushed, looks like a basement. Concrete walls, no windows, a narrow door with 5 bolts, and beside it, etched in pen, is the symbol you recognize from the case file. An Ouroboros, the snake eating itself. The same symbol she drew in the margins of a court-appointed therapy journal. Over and over. Not a doodle. A pattern. You dismissed it. Called it trauma expression. But now it feels like a map. You grab the key and shove it in your pocket. You don't know where you're going yet. But staying is worse. You glance at the recorder. Still silent. You press play on the second tape again. More whispering. Then, a phrase that halts your breath. He thinks the key opens a door. It doesn't. It opens him. You stagger back. That same phrase. She wrote it during her psychological evaluation. Only once, right after she'd been declared unfit to testify. Right before she went silent for good. The key opens him. You wonder if she meant it literally, or worse, psychologically. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially when they're being rewritten. It was never about unlocking the case. It was about unlocking you. The truth she didn't tell, but showed. You stare at the key, still in your palm. Cool, but no longer inert. It feels like it's humming, like it wants to be used not to open, but to expose. You remember something from her early hearings. The day she finally stopped speaking, she'd been mid-sentence, explaining something no one asked her to. A digression about mirrors and silence and how words shape memory. The stenographer paused, looked up. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a silver key, just like the one you hold now. Held it up between two fingers. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. The courtroom went still. No one understood what it meant, except maybe you. You thought it was performance. But now you realize it wasn't for them. It was for you. You go back to your computer, pull up the raw footage from that day. The court transcript lists the moment as a pause in testimony. But the video shows more. She lifts the key. Her eyes move. Not toward the judge, not toward the gallery, toward the ceiling, and you follow her gaze. There, in the corner, tucked behind a panel, a hidden camera. One that shouldn't be there. One you had installed. For your eyes only. A backup feed, unofficial, illegal, forgotten. You dig into your encrypted drives. There it is. Feed 244B high sec MP4. You open it. The angle is different. Overhead, less polished, but more honest. And in this version, you see her gesture, a movement too small, too specific. She raises the key, points it downward, and curls her hand into a fist. A shape, a signal, an address. You freeze frame. Overlay the courtroom blueprint. The gesture mirrors a set of coordinates. Not the courtroom, not the police station, the archive basement. You haven't been there in years. Restricted since the fire. The blaze that was ruled an accident but which started 2 weeks after she was sentenced. You thought it was coincidence. But what if it was cleanup? You grab your coat, the key clenched tight. You're going back in. Not to prove she was guilty, not to prove you were right, but to see what she tried to show you. Because truth doesn't shout, it lingers, in gestures, in symbols, in locked rooms beneath erased records. You look once more at the photograph, her expression, frozen in time, a quiet warning, a dare. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth, it was about control. And now, she's guiding yours. Smoke that shouldn't still be there. The archive basement greets you with the kind of silence that never stops screaming. A single flickering bulb above the stairwell. The kind that hums like it remembers every name it was sworn to forget. You descend slowly. Each step feels softer than the last, like the ground is giving way to something deeper than earth. You reach the steel door, the one marked Archive B, closed due to fire damage, a warning, or an invitation. You fish out the key. It doesn't match the lock, because there is no lock, just a slit, thin, horizontal. You slip the key in. It fits, but doesn't turn. It clicks, not like a lock, like a trigger. A hiss escapes from beneath the door, like air leaving a sealed truth. The door swings open. Inside, pitch black and smoke. Not fresh, but not gone. The kind that clings to memory like dust. Your flashlight beam cuts through it like an old film reel. Rows of scorched shelves, melted plastic bins, charred case folders with spines eaten by flame. But one drawer is untouched, not just intact, pristine, as if the fire moved around it. The tag reads, Case 07112A, Vesper. You hesitate, then pull it open. Inside tapes, dozens, none labeled, except one, a white sticker, 2 words written in block letters. Your testimony. You blink. You never testified. You were an investigator, not a witness. You reach for the tape, but it's warm and wet, like it was just recorded. You pull it out, wipe it on your sleeve, insert it into the deck on the nearby desk. The deck powers on. That shouldn't be possible. The basement hasn't had electricity since the fire. You press play, static. Then your voice. She showed me the photo. The one from the motel. But I was already there. Your chest tightens. The you in the tape doesn't sound like you. More tired, more certain. Then her voice, in the background. He saw the door, but not the other side. You paused the tape. What did you miss? You search the drawer again, under the tapes. You find it. A photograph. Not of her. Of you. At the motel. Only this time you're leaving, and your hand is stained with soot. You flip the photo. The back reads, "You never lit the fire, but you watched it burn." You reel back. A memory flickers blurred, unreliable. You standing outside the archive, smoke billowing, sirens in the distance, and her voice clear as breath on glass. Sometimes silence isn't guilt. Sometimes it's protection from people like you. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who stand still while truth burns. It was never about who set the fire. It was about who benefited from the ashes. The second tape you never knew you made. You eject the tape with trembling fingers. It whines slightly, as if reluctant to leave the machine. Your voice still echoes in the recesses of the room. Your voice, yet not yours. The way it spoke, like it knew how this would end, like it remembered something you hadn't yet lived. The drawer creaks as you close it. You scan the room again. The fire should have devoured everything, but instead, it curated. And now, it reveals. You notice a strip of scorched carpet that didn't burn evenly. In fact, it looks deliberate edges clean, cut like a frame. You kneel down and peel it back. Another compartment, a shallow hatch, not in any blueprint. You pry it open. Inside a second cassette, black, unlabeled. But instead of pulling it out, you pause. Something about it feels wrong. You listen first. No static, just breath. Not yours, not hers, something else. Then a sound knocking. 3 beats. Faint, deliberate. From inside the tape. No, from inside the room. You spin. Silence. Then you notice the mirror, hung crooked on the wall beside the filing cabinet. A cracked mirror, not broken from heat, but fractured outward, like something inside it wanted out. You approach, and behind your reflection, just for a moment, another image overlays yours, her, standing behind you, expression unreadable, then gone. You knock on the wall where the mirror hangs, hollow. You pry at the edges. It pops open, revealing a narrow recess, like a hideaway built into the foundation. Inside, a single photograph, her, again, this time seated, calm, in a room you don't recognize, but on the wall behind her, that same cracked mirror, and scrawled across the glass, in marker, "They won't believe it if you do." You freeze, because you remember this photo. You saw it once, not during the trial, at the hospital, after the verdict. You were there for another case, a brief consultation. She was in psychiatric custody then, under sedation. They said she was no longer coherent, no longer aware. But now, this photo tells a different story. This wasn't sedation. This was strategy. And you begin to wonder, did she orchestrate all of it? The silence, the photo trail, the fire, even you. Because if she knew you'd be here, if she planned this, then maybe the guilt wasn't hers. Maybe it was planted. And maybe the real confession was never spoken, because the only person who needed to hear it already had. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who build the trap from inside it. It was never about exoneration. It was about witnessing the folder that wasn't meant to exist. You slip the photograph into your coat pocket like contraband. The cracked mirror closes behind you with a metallic click. No lock, no latch. Just the suggestion that some truths are better hidden once they're found. But you don't stop. Something's guiding you now. Not footsteps, not memory, something deeper. Recognition. You pull open a charred cabinet labeled Cases, Denied Entry. Most of it's ash, but halfway down, tucked beneath a warped drawer, you find it. A folder, unmarked, unburned, untouched. You feel it before you see it. Not heat, weight, not from the paper inside, but from what it represents. You open it slowly. The first page is blank. The second is a photo of you in uniform, smiling, holding a commendation certificate. Except this moment never happened. You never received that award because the event that triggered it never occurred. You turn the page. Another image. A courtroom. She's on the stand, speaking, not silent. Lips moving, hands animated, eyes defiant. You keep flipping. Transcript excerpts follow. Except none of this matches the record. You read an exchange. Interrogator. Do you admit to witnessing the fire? Subject. Yes. Interrogator. And the man standing next to you. Subject. He told me to watch. Your breath catches. Your name appears. Not as a detective, as a co-suspect. You close the folder. Open it again. The photos are gone, replaced by different ones. Now you're seated at a table, alone, head in your hands, on the back of the image. This is your version, the one they let you remember. You drop the folder. Your fingers feel scorched. You step away from the cabinet, heart pounding. Suddenly, the smoke in the room thickens not from the fire, but from your mind, like something's unraveling, like you're waking up inside the case, not outside it. The recorder clicks again, the one you never noticed. A new voice, soft, familiar, hers. You didn't ignore the truth. You helped bury it. Now dig it up. You spin, looking for the source, but you already know you won't find it, because she's not speaking to you. She's speaking from you. Her silence, it wasn't absence, it was preservation. Until the right time. Until now, you knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who file the paperwork. It was never about guilt. It was about rewriting the narrative. And you were holding the pen the whole time. The journal that writes itself. You back away from this folder like it might bite. Not just because of what it shows, but because of what it knows. The photographs changed. Reality didn't shift. You did. And that means this room, this archive, isn't just a place where files live. It's a mechanism, a mirror, a trap. You scan the shelves one more time. Most are dead space, burned, empty, warped. But one thin ledger leans between two fused metal supports. It's red, bound in leather, smudged with fingerprints that match your own. The name etched across the cover, Vesper unfiled. You open it. The pages are handwritten, scrawled in ink that bleeds through. The handwriting is neat, clean, feminine, hers. You turn to the first entry. They told me to forget. That silence was safer. But silence only grows teeth when no one feeds it answers. So I'll write this for the one who finally listens. You stop reading because this isn't a journal. It's a prediction. As you say, each entry outlines moments that haven't happened yet. Your arrival, the key, the mirror, the second photograph, and then he'll read this page last. He'll look up and he'll finally see what's behind him. You look up, slowly, and there, in the corner above the cabinet, you see it. A camera. Not modern, vintage, almost analog, with a blinking red light, recording, and just below it, another photo tacked to the wall. You move closer. It's you, right now, reading the journal, a still frame from a video that hasn't been played yet. On the back of the photo, someone's written, "She didn't trap you, you followed her." You exhale hard. The journal shakes in your hands. You flip to the last page. It's blank. You blink. Now it's not. Words form as you watch slowly, line by line. He'll write his version too. He'll think it's investigation, but really, it's confession. And then, time doesn't loop. It waits for people like him. Your fingers go cold because the last line isn't written by her. It's in your handwriting. "I knew, but pretended I didn't." You drop the journal, not by accident, by instinct, because it's true. You knew from the moment the photo arrived, from the courtroom silence that pierced louder than any scream, from the way her eyes met yours, not to plead innocence, but to challenge memory. Everyone lies, especially the ones holding the evidence. It was never about her trial. It was about your reckoning, the mirror that never reflected you. You don't take the journal. You leave it there, spine cracked open, like a confession mid-sentence. Instead, you retrace your steps through the archive's scorched air, past the drawer that revealed too much, and toward the hallway that leads to the utility lift. It smells like rust and regret. The photograph still burns in your coat pocket. Your voice still echoes in the recorder upstairs. You ride the lift alone. No sound but the slow grind of old gears pulling you back toward the surface, back toward a world that still believes the trial ended clean, that the silence was an ending, not a signal, that her guilt was final. You step into the night. Fog curls around your ankles like memory rising from the ground. And then you feel it, a weight in your pocket. You reach in and pull it out. A mirror, small, handheld, oval. You didn't put this here, but it's yours. The back is etched with the phrase, "What you see is never all there is." You raise it, expect to see yourself, but the reflection isn't right. Your tie is missing, your eyes are wrong, and behind you her, only she isn't looking at you. She's looking through you, over your shoulder, towards something you haven't turned to face. You spin, nothing, just the wind. But when you look back at the mirror, she's still there, still watching, and then she speaks, not from the glass, from your memory, from the courtroom, from the hallway after the verdict, from the silence you thought was mercy. They asked if I saw the killer. I said yes, but I didn't point. You breathed, shallow. You understand now. She wasn't protecting him. She was protecting you. Not because you were innocent, but because you weren't ready. Not then, and maybe not now. But the story is waking up again, and it's hungry. The mirror in your hand grows warm, too warm. You set it down on the nearest bench and walk away. But in the glass, your reflection doesn't follow. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who forget their own face. It was never about catching the killer. It was about admitting you'd already seen them. The silence that sounded like your name. The city swallows you up again. Neon signs blur in the damp wind. Shadows stretch too long under lamplight. And every pair of shoes behind you could be hers or someone sent by her silence. You walk fast, not to escape her, but to chase what part of you still believes this ends with understanding. You slip into a late night diner, chrome counters, fluorescent hum, two patrons and a waitress who doesn't look up. You sit in the back booth. The mirror across from you reflects everything but your eyes. You reach into your coat, not for the photo, for your badge. You run your thumb across its face like it might still mean something. Does it? The last week or hour or lifetime has collapsed your identity into a box of ashes and whispers. Then the door chimes. Someone walks in. You don't look, but the energy shifts. A soft click of heels, a pause, a rustle of fabric sliding into the booth behind you. You wait, breathing shallow, listening for breath that isn't yours. Then a voice, soft, not hers, but close enough to break you. You asked the wrong questions. You don't turn. You can't. You looked for proof. You should have looked for permission. You steady your voice. Who are you? Someone who told the truth once and watched it ruin everything. The phrase chills you because it's the title on her sealed deposition. You wrote it. You try again. What do you want? To remind you. A pause. That forgetting is a choice. And you made it. She, whoever she is, places something on your table. A cassette tape. Unlabeled. Familiar. You slide it toward you. It's warm. Too warm. You whisper. What's on it? What you said when you thought no one would listen. What you buried in silence and called closure. You finally turn. She's gone. Just steam rising from the mug she never touched. You reach across the booth. Inside the mug, a photograph, burning but not destroyed. You pull it free. It's her again. But this time, she's standing in your apartment, facing your bookshelf, reaching for the red journal. She's not afraid. She's directing. And on the bottom of the image, scrawled like a dare, last chance, truth or control. You exhale. The tape burns in your hand like guilt. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who call it justice. It was never about solving her case. It was about solving yourself. The confession, hidden in your own voice. You don't take the cassette home. You drive. Nowhere specific, just until the streets blur, until your thoughts match the static in your ears. The tape sits on the passenger seat like a passenger who knows too much. Every red light feels like a chance to throw it out the window, but you don't. You pull into an old parking lot. Cracked asphalt, a flickering security lamp, the kind of place that doesn't ask questions because it never expects answers. You slip the cassette into your portable recorder. You press play. No static this time, just your voice, your exact tone, your cadence, but older. It started with her silence, but it ended with mine. You listen, transfixed. I thought I could keep it compartmentalized, evidence in one box, doubt in another, but it all leaked. Every time she looked at me, it leaked. The voice pauses. You hear ambient noise, footsteps, a knock, your breath. She didn't lie. She just withheld what would destroy me. Then something jarring. A second voice interjects. It's hers, from nowhere and everywhere. You asked for the truth. You didn't ask what it would cost. You lean back. You remember now. Not fully, but pieces. You met her before the case began. Not formally. A chance encounter. A file you weren't supposed to see. A statement you reviewed off the record. She was a witness then, but you made her a suspect because it was easier, cleaner, because her version of the truth made you a thread in the web, not the spider at its center. You tried to erase that, buried it under procedure, paperwork, and the illusion of justice. but she never let go. She went silent so the system would speak over her, and it did. But now she's narrating you. The tape clicks again, back to your voice. If you're listening to this, it means the loop is almost complete. The mirror didn't crack. You did. You eject the tape. You can't breathe because this isn't just her revenge. It's your exposure. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who hold the recorder. It was never about her confession. It was about yours. The file with your name on it. You drive until the horizon forgets you, through neighborhoods that look like memories left to rot, past shuttered diners, burned out phone booths, chain link fences tangled with wind-blown regrets. You end up somewhere you haven't been in years, the precinct records building. It's after midnight, but the lock doesn't resist you. You still remember the code. You shouldn't, but guilt remembers what pride deletes. You slip through the side door. The air inside is stale and cold, like it never agreed to forget. Rows of cabinets, thousands of names, but you go straight to it. The drawer that shouldn't exist. Internal review. Classified. You hesitate, then pull. It sticks, then gives. Inside 3 files. One marked Vesper, one marked exonerated, and the third, your name. You freeze. The file is thick, heavier than it should be, like it contains the version of you no one's supposed to meet. You open it. First page of photo. You, mid-laugh, candid. You don't recognize the moment, but someone took it with intent. You flip through. Memos you never wrote. Witness statements you never heard. But your name appears in all of them. Not as investigator, not even as suspect, as variable. Mentioned in the margins. Whispers of interference. Pattern anomalies. Statements redacted, but still implicating. And one phrase, highlighted across 3 different forms. Consistent presence in all corrupted versions of the narrative. You turn the page. Another photo. The motel again. This time, she's not in the shot. You are, standing alone, looking at something off-frame. Behind you smoke, not from fire, from film. From a projector catching itself ablaze mid-story. The caption reads, "Do not allow access to primary evidence. Subject exhibits narrative immunity." What does that mean? You read the phrase again. Narrative immunity. You remember what she said in the diner. You didn't ask what the truth would cost. Maybe it wasn't about justice. Maybe it was about authorship. She refused to speak because the moment she did, your version would crumble. And now, here it is, in your hands, ashes pretending to be paper. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who built the story. It was never about finding out who she was. It was about finding out who you've become. The room, they said, was sealed. The file cabinet doesn't slam shut. It locks itself. The hum of the building shifts like it knows you've stepped beyond protocol, beyond safety, beyond plausible deniability. You pocket the photo. You don't know why. It won't change anything, but maybe it already has. Down the hall, a red bulb flickers above a doorway labeled Restricted Access, B3. You've walked past this door 100 times, never opened it, never wanted to. But tonight, it pulls you in like a half-remembered dream. You swipe your ID. It shouldn't work. It does. The door hisses open. Beyond it, darkness. Not the kind you can light up. The kind that swallows light. Still, you step in. The hallway curves downward, almost spiral, and the walls are lined with something strange screens, all dark. But as you pass them, they flicker to life. Not with data, not with maps or mugshots, with scenes, moments, your moments, talking to her in the hallway after the arrest, reviewing files you don't remember receiving, watching her trial unfold from the gallery, lips pressed tight, jaw locked. Each screen is time-stamped, but the dates are all wrong. Some from years before the case began, some from days after it ended, some from tomorrows that haven't happened yet. At the end of the hallway, a vault door, open, and inside, a room of mirrors, hundreds, all facing inward, all reflecting different versions of you, some older, some younger, some in uniform, some holding the red journal, and at the center, a single chair, occupied by her, but not quite. This version is spectral, not ghost, not hologram, more like a residual loop, a memory that never stopped playing. She looks at you, but doesn't speak. Instead, the room hums with a phrase. You don't hear it with your ears. You feel it in your spine. You asked for her silence. Now live in its echo. The mirrors begin to crack one by one until only one remains whole, the one in front of you. Your reflection stares back, but it isn't mimicking. It's waiting. It tilts its head before you do. It blinks when you don't. Then it smiles and mouths your name. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who stare too long at the truth. It was never about her guilt. It was about your reflection. The evidence you buried in yourself. You take a step back from the mirror, but your reflection doesn't. It stays frozen, half smiling, mocking, knowing. Then it begins to move again, but this time without you. A separate rhythm, a different agenda. It raises a hand and points to your pocket. You reach inside, trembling, not for your badge, not for the photo, for the thing you didn't realize you were still carrying, the second tape, the one you found in the fire's aftermath. You'd pocketed it before memory caught up, before suspicion had a name, before your version of the truth cracked open like bone under pressure. You turn it in your palm. There's something etched into the side, barely visible under ash and melted plastic. A single word, return. You don't remember recording it, but the voice on the last tape that was you, the you who already knew how this would spiral. You walk deeper into the vault of mirrors. Each one hums as you pass, the glass warping slightly, like it remembers versions of you that never reached this point. And finally, you reach the pedestal. At the center, beneath the spectral version of her, the looped presence, the echo of her defiance is a recorder. The original one, the source. Its tape bay is empty, waiting. You insert the cassette. It clicks into place. The mirrors stop cracking. The hum vanishes. And for the first time in what feels like years, silence, not absence, reverence. Then the recorder plays, not your voice, hers, not the courtroom silence, not the pre-recorded ones. This is different. This is unfiltered. You wanted me quiet so your story could survive. But silence isn't absence. It's a ledger. It keeps track. You freeze because the next line isn't hers. It's yours, recorded in a whisper. I knew, but pretended I didn't. And then a pause, a sharp inhale, like someone is about to confess or vanish. You don't know which, and you don't get to hear the end, because the recorder ejects the tape automatically, like it's been timed, final, and the room begins to fade. Not in light, but in relevance, like the moment has passed, like your story is no longer the central thread. You look back at the last mirror. Your reflection is gone, replaced by a version of her, older, smiling faintly, forgiving maybe, maybe not. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who think their silence is noble. It was never about clearing your name. It was about facing what you buried inside it. The trial that never happened but always haunts. You leave the vault, but it doesn't feel like escape. It feels like release, like something was holding you here. And now, it's simply done with you. You climb the steps back toward the surface, and every level feels like another year lost, another truth surfacing. You push the door open, and the air outside smells new, not fresh, just different. The city hasn't changed, but you notice things now. How quiet it is when no one's pretending. How loud silence becomes when it has witnesses. You drive again, this time toward the courthouse, not because you have an appointment, but because you never really left it. The trial wasn't just hers, it was yours too, and the verdict was never rendered. You park behind the courthouse. The stone steps echo beneath your feet like a drum roll for a confession you never gave. Inside, the halls are deserted, but courtroom 12 is unlocked. You step inside. No judge, no jury, no audience, just one chair, lit by a single bulb. And waiting for you, you sit, because what else is left? Then the lights go out, and the projector hums behind you. A reel begins to roll. On the screen, the trial, but not as you remember. There's no gavel, no formalities, just you, seated at the witness stand, and her across from you, staring, not angry, not pleading, just knowing. She speaks. Did you alter the case notes? Your on-screen self hesitates, then nods. Yes. Did you suppress her testimony? Another pause. I didn't think anyone would believe her. Did you a beat? No. The real you can't breathe, because you never gave this testimony. But it exists. Somewhere in the folds of time you erased. A version of you came clean, and now that version has returned. The screen goes black. The bulb above you flickers. You stand, slowly. On the table where the gavel should be a new file, you flip it open. One page only. Your name. Under it, guilty not of the crime, but of shaping the story around your comfort. And below that, a signature, hers. Next to it, a date. Today. You step back. The courtroom feels like it's breathing, not in menace, but in finality. A wind rustles the transcript on the bench behind you. A whisper follows it. Justice wasn't about proving what happened. It was about acknowledging who chose to forget. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the ones who believe they're protecting others. It was never about the crime. It was about the rewrite. The ending she wrote before you began. The courtroom doesn't vanish. It waits, like a book with a closing chapter it knows you won't read because you're in it. You step out into the hallway, the single page still in your hand. The word guilty etched there weighs more than the verdict ever did, not because it condemns you, but because it understands you. She did, from the beginning, and that's what you never forgave her for. You walk the hall until it ends at a door you've passed 1,000 times, but never noticed. The glass is etched with one word, storage. You push it open. Dust dances in the beam from a single desk lamp, and there, resting in the center of the room, the red journal, unburned, untouched, still waiting. You approach slowly. You sit. You open it. This time, the first page is different. It reads, If you're reading this, it means I won. Not because I escaped, but because you finally stopped running. You keep turning pages. Each entry isn't about the case, it's about you, your tells, your strategies, the way your left eyebrow twitches when you lie to yourself. She was never just a witness. She was a chronicler of your guilt, of your fear, of the exact moment you traded curiosity for control. Halfway through, there's a page torn out. You look beneath the journal and find it folded on its own. It's a letter, dated 2 weeks before the trial, addressed to you. I thought about telling them everything, but then you looked at me, and I saw the man who still wanted to believe he could fix it. So I stayed silent. Not for me, for the version of you that still existed somewhere. If you're reading this, maybe he's back. Your hands tremble, because the last line is a sentence you've repeated in your mind for years. Every time the silence roared too loud to bear. We both knew, but we pretended we didn't. You look up, and for a moment, in the glass of the lamp, you see her, just a flicker, a nod, a faint smile that doesn't forgive, but understands. You close the journal. You stand, and for the first time in a long time, you leave nothing behind. Because the silence isn't punishment, it's witness. And now, it speaks. The door closes behind you with a softness that doesn't feel like an ending, just an understanding. Outside, the sky isn't black. It's a shade of blue that forgets itself before morning, a color that knows too much and says nothing. You walk without purpose now, because purpose belonged to the man who needed answers. You've met the version of yourself who asked too late, who rewrote facts into comfort, who mistook silence for consent. And now you carry her voice in the quiet between streetlight flickers. Not an accusation, not even a warning, just witness. A breeze rustles the collar of your coat. For a moment, it almost sounds like a voice. You pause, you listen, but there's nothing. Not because the story's over, because it's finally still. The truth, whatever it was, isn't waiting to be discovered. It already happened. And the question now isn't what you missed. It's whether you'll keep pretending not to know. She was never erased, just unread. And now, as the city exhales beneath the weight of unanswered questions and remembered guilt, you let yourself feel it. Relief, not because you're innocent, but because, for once, you're not lying. You knew, but pretended you didn't. And now, you know better. So go home. Wash the ash from your hands. Lock the doors, not out of fear, but out of respect, because silence kept you safe. And now, it keeps you honest. End of script. Sleep well, and watch your back.